Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and help us greet the 82nd Governor of the state of Georgia, the Honorable Nathan Deal. We're so pleased to have you all with us this afternoon. We will go right into our program. We will have an official welcome to Albany State University by our interim president, Dr. Arthur Dunning, followed by our state senator, Freddie Powell Sims. Let's give Dr. Dunning a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Today is a historic day for Albany State University. This is the first time a sitting governor has come to the campus to sign legislation into law. So we're indeed excited about that.
I didn't realize that.
This is a watershed moment in the history of Albany State University and Albany, Georgia. Governor Deal, we'd like to thank you for being here. This campus is 112 years old, and so we are proud that you are making your visit a part of that history. You don't know how much we are excited about your presence, so thank you. The bills you signed today will make a far-reaching impact on the local economy in Georgia and Southwest Georgia in some very deep ways. So it's our distinct pleasure that you've chosen this campus and also chosen this region of the state to sign what you could have easily signed in Atlanta. It would have been more convenient for you to sign there, been easier, but we're delighted that you're here to do that. We'd also like to thank you for your leadership in education. One of the things we hear a lot about, and you know this from the Chancellor, is complete college Georgia. And we're helping to get more Georgians educated. Our job is to enhance the workforce in Southwest Georgia and indeed the state of Georgia. In order for us to be ready for economic development and have more people qualified, they have to get post-secondary education. No question about that. That's the economy we live in. So we want to thank you and the rest of the elected officials for what you've done for us. This has been an extraordinary year for Southwest Georgia and also for Albany State University. And I'd like to ask Senator Freddie Powell Sims, who's been part of this process, and we are indeed pleased that she's here to work with us today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Governor Deal, as our governor and the governor of all Georgians, we are so pleased to host this memorable bill signing event on the campus of Albany State University. Without the powerful support of your office, Southwest Georgia appropriations would not have taken place. Thank you, Governor Deal. Our delegation's first visit to your office was well received, with your promise to do whatever could be done to find monies in the budget for much-needed higher education projects at Albany State and Darton College. We are so pleased to stand with you today as you sign this most important budget along with our justice reform bills. Persistently, you have proven to Georgians the importance of viable educational systems from K through 16. Again, Governor Deal, we so appreciate all that you've done. And a good shout out to my boss, Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, for understanding the importance of Southwest Georgians and their needs. And I would also like to have my chairman of a Senate Appropriations stand, Senator Hill. And again, Governor Deal, welcome, and thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sims, thank you so very much for that kind introduction. Dr. Dunning, thank you also. We're very pleased to be here today. To the members of the General Assembly, and we have quite a few who have come to be with us today, thank you for being here. I know that Gerald Green would have liked to have been here as well, because he was, along with the senator, the two people that came to see me about this particular project here at Albany State, but he's in Atlanta. They're having an election on some leadership positions today. So that's where he is. I'm sure he would like to have been here with us. We are here to sign 3 pieces of legislation. The first one is the budget itself. As you know, that is probably the most important bill that the General Assembly passes every year, and as Senator Sims indicated, we're very pleased to have Senator Jack Hill, who is the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the State Senate, with us today. This year, we had a great budget. We had a great legislative session, quite frankly. I told my staff after it concluded that it was probably the most successful of the 5 legislative sessions that we've had since I've been governor. And I thank the members of General Assembly for making that happen. It took a lot of cooperation, and they gave it to me, and I thank you for that. Now, we, every year, we try to budget conservatively. We believe that's the safe thing to do. It has maintained our AAA bond rating, which is something that only a very few states can claim, and not even the federal government has been able to consistently maintain a AAA bond rating, but we have in the state of Georgia. Briefly, every year, as we budget, the difference between what we budget to spend and what we actually take in revenue, the largest portion of that goes into our so-called rainy day fund. And when I became governor, we had already been in the midst of the Great Recession, and that rainy day fund was pretty well exhausted when I took office. Now, up until this year, we had replenished that rainy day fund and had actually increased it by about 643%. And you will see as a result of the conclusion of this fiscal year, which will end the end of next month, we will have even more money that will go into our rainy day fund. We will be close to, if not at, the $1 billion reserve fund for the state of Georgia. And that is a good place for us to be, because we never know when the rainy days are going to come. Now, because of conservative budgeting and because of having good policies that have helped generate job growth in our state, the state has been rewarded for that. We have just gotten in the numbers for state revenue for the month of April. Hopefully you will be pleased to know that April of this year, the revenue for our state was 15% higher than it was for April of last year. That is an exceptional growth for our state. And since we are now within a month or month and a half of completing our fiscal year, we are now at 7.1% for the entire fiscal year, above what we had taken in at this time last fiscal year. So I think that's a very good sign that the economy of our state has continued to rebound after the Great Recession, and that we are truly heading in the right direction. Now, there are many areas of the budget, and I don't have time to talk about all of them. I want to talk briefly about education. And education is the one area that always receives the greatest portion of every state budget. I asked my economics people to take a look at the budgets that we've had in the 5 cycles since I've been governor, and they came back and reported to me that in my tenure as governor of this state, we have devoted more of the state revenue to education than any governor in the last 50 years. And I'm proud of that. This year in K through 12 education, we've added another $558 million, for example. And in the higher education arena, we continue to see that grow. And that's part of what I want to talk to you about today. Your delegation, both House and Senate, have impressed upon us and the members of the General Assembly the importance of what's going on here at Albany State. And therefore, in this budget, there is a $19.8 million in bonds for the construction of the Fine Arts Center right here at this university. Thank you. Senator Sims and your other members of your delegation have lobbied for this for a very long time, and I am pleased that we're able to include it in this year's budget. Also, we have about $1.7 million in bonds to continue the renovations for the Student Services Center at Darton College. So both of these institutions have received significant amount of money in this budget cycle. Now, there are many other areas of the budget, as I indicated, that are very important to us. But we have two other bills. I'm going to sign the budget, and I'm going to sign two other pieces of legislation. One of them is House Bill 76. And this is a bill that continues to fund the criminal justice reforms that we put in place several years ago. I hope you know that our criminal justice reforms are being recognized all across the country as being perhaps the most successful criminal justice reforms of any state in our nation. And we should all be proud of that. We started on the front end with adults, and we are in the process of continuing that, of diverting nonviolent individuals out of our prison system. That makes a lot of sense on many fronts. The first quarter of this year, we had about 4,100 individuals that were in accountability courts all across this state. And in the past, without those courts, almost all of them would have been sent to an $18,000 a year prison bed. Now, they're being given a chance to recover their lives, to be able to deal with their addictions, which quite frankly is the main cause of most of them being in those nonviolent criminal categories, and to be able to reclaim their lives, to be reunited with their family, and to be taxpayers instead of drains on the rest of us as taxpayers. The second year, we took on the same approach with juvenile justice reform, of granting funds to local communities to create local diversion programs for those nonviolent juveniles so that they would not have to be locked up in an RYDC, but could remain in the community under close supervision, with the theory being that they too, if we catch them early enough in their cycle, we can divert them from a life of crime. Because if $18,000 for an adult prison bed sounds expensive, try $91,000 for a juvenile to be incarcerated in our system. Those are both working very successfully. The third leg of our criminal justice reform was what we call transition, support, and reentry. And that is to deal with those individuals who are currently in our prison system and will at some point be released back into our society. In the past, we really have not done a whole lot to make that transition flawless. And as a result, we have a very high recidivism rate of about 1 out of every 3 that are released or back in our system in 3 years or less. We resolved to do something about that. We asked the question, what is the one common characteristic that most of our inmate population in our prison system have in common? And the answer came back, a lack of education. Almost 70% of them dropped out of school. And so therefore, they don't have a high school diploma, they have no marketable skill, and to send them out the door after being incarcerated for a felony and expect them to not get in trouble again is not really a realistic expectation. So we resolved to do something about that. And I want to tell you, it is working as well. This year, we have put about $2.5 million toward further support of our reentry of offenders back into our society. And we have also consolidated our supervision systems so that we will not have multiple jurisdictions supervising people. In the past, we had parole officers. If somebody had been released from our prison system, if the family had somebody who'd been in trouble and they had a probation officer, you had a probation officer. In certain cases, if the young person in the family unit had trouble and were involved in the juvenile court, they had a juvenile probation officer. We are now consolidating those under a Department of Supervision so that we'll have a better handle of the entire picture of what all the circumstances of either a family unit or the individual within a family unit are going to be. We think that's going to be a tremendous step in the right direction as well. The General Assembly also authorized an additional $5 million to further support that accountability court system for adult offenders and for our community-based alternatives for the juvenile offenders. In addition, we're devoting about $12 million to education initiatives within our adult justice system so that we can give them marketable skills when they're released. We have also, in this budget process, put money in to help establish 2 charter high schools for inmates in our system so that they can actually earn a high school diploma instead of simply a GED. And we're continuing to infuse in their educational opportunities technical skills, welding, diesel mechanics, a number of areas where we currently have jobs available and not enough trained people. And if we do a good job of this, we will smooth out their reentry and we will reduce our recidivism rate for our state. These are all the result of recommendations of our Criminal Justice Reform Council, and I know there are several members of that council who are here today, and I want to thank them for their hard work because it is a continuing, ongoing monitoring of what is happening in our criminal justice system and the ability to make recommendations to me and to the General Assembly to make changes if those need to be done. Now, House Bill 361 is the second bill, third bill rather, it's the second bill. It does some of the very same things on the juvenile side that we are doing in the adult side. It continues to make reforms with regard to juvenile offenders, and it gives, for example, the district attorney's office the ability to be involved in cases of troubled young people. It grants the prosecuting attorneys the ability to file a complaint suggesting that a child is in need of services, maybe rather as an alternative to simply being prosecuted. And we believe that is a great way to get the prosecutor involved in the positive side of things if they recognize that a young person doesn't necessarily need to be locked up, but they simply are in need of services. This bill allows that to happen. It also permits Superior Court judges to transfer certain juvenile cases involving someone who is between 13 and 17 years old, but who has committed a serious crime, to refer them back to the juvenile court, so long as they meet the criteria that the statute sets forth. For example, you take into consideration the degree of involvement of the child with the crime, the magnitude of the harm done to the victims, and whether or not the child could benefit from the programs of a juvenile court rather than being sent into the adult system. It specifies that juvenile courts will only handle the prosecution of traffic violations if the individual involved is under 17 years old. I think juvenile court judges will welcome that change. In fact, that was one of their suggestions, is that they're spending too much time in juvenile court having to deal with juveniles with traffic tickets, and I agree. There's a better way to do that. The other bill is House Bill 328. It updates our adult reforms. It creates the Council of Accountability Court Judges of Georgia, and what that is designed to do is to create the council that will establish the rules and the regulations for our accountability courts, As you may know, in the Superior Court system, we have given a raise to the judges that are in those systems, those judicial circuits that have accountability courts. I felt that that was a very good incentive to see the increase in accountability courts. We had a somewhat spotty availability of accountability courts across our state. And with this council, I am hopeful they will come back with criteria and recommendations so that someone who lives in a part of the state, just because it may be a rural area, is not deprived of the opportunity to go and participate in an accountability court and rather face the consequences of prison as an alternative. We believe we should have greater dispersion of those accountability court opportunities. So I believe that is also a very good element that is included in that legislation. There are a number of other provisions in the bill. I'm not going to take your time to go into all of the details of it, but simply to say that these two bills on criminal justice reform are the result of the recommendations of knowledgeable individuals who have served on the Criminal Justice Reform Council. They are an ongoing monitoring and recommending body, and as the days and the years go by, I feel sure they will come with more recommendations as we refine the process. Our purpose is to make sure that several things occur. One is that we're all kept safe. That's the most important thing of all. That's why we have a criminal justice system. But by the same token, if we do not acknowledge all of the things that cause someone to get into trouble and try to remedy those problems, simply locking them up for a given period of time and turning them loose does not make you safer. Many would argue it probably makes you less safe. So we're working at it in a conscientious way, and these two bills that I will sign today will take us down that road. And I believe, once again, as I said earlier, I believe Georgia will continue to be recognized as a leader in meaningful criminal justice reform that keeps us safe, breaks the cycle of criminal activity, because as many of you know, much of our criminal activity is generational. It comes out of the same family units. And if we don't break that cycle, then our future doesn't look much better than our past. The good news is we are breaking that cycle. Thank you, and I'm going to sign the three bills here, and I would invite the members of the General Assembly to come up and join me, and anyone else that they would like to invite to join us for this signing ceremony. Please come to the stage. How you doing? Good to see you there. How you doing? Good to see you. Yes, sir. Fine. Hey, Mac, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, here we go. All right, this is House Bill 76, which is the fiscal year 2016 budget. I've already given Jack one, so I'm gonna give it to y'all. Okay. Let's see. There you go. Let's see. I've got some extra pens here. What about if I share those with y'all too? Thank you. Sure. I'm sorry, Daryl. I didn't see you right there. I didn't bring enough. I didn't bring enough of the regular ones. See, I'll share these other pens with you. How about that? Okay. Thank you, sir. Now I'm going to sign House Bill 361. Oh, there you go. Daryl's going to get one after all.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
Thank you, Governor.
All right. That's House Bill 361. And this is House Bill 328. Mr. President, why don't I give you one? Like, I've never known him not to take something the state was offering. Anybody else back there? Pretty well covers. Well, Jack, I'll give you another one. All right. And that's House Bill 328. These are the three pieces of legislation we've signed today. Thank you all for being here today.